Hello, beautiful soul. Welcome to my channel. My name is Joanna. If this is your first time watching, thank you so much for being here. Thank you being for part of this transmission. My job, if you will, though it's one of the best experiences I could have, being in this body, is to help you be in alignment with your own true self. In other words, my job is to help you raise your own frequency by looking at the limitations you have about yourself, which you are not looking at, and then transforming those limitations into something powerful, something very creative. And each individual has this power within them to shift their own perception of themselves. And at the end of the day, how the world sees you is irrelevant. It's how you see you that either benefits you or does not benefit you the most. How you see you is what is most important, because it is how you see you that will affect the relationship you have with you. So if you are at odds with yourself, then there is a part of you that is unable to be expressed as a result of you keeping that aspect of you on the side. And we may qualify this aspect as good or bad, but here's the problem. That's a judgment we hold about ourselves. And recently, I've proclaimed to the universe that I am committing to being less judgmental, to remove judgments out of my life, out of my psyche. And I knew this wasn't going to be an easy ordeal, but boy, has this opened up a can of worms. And what I am realizing is that we as human species are very judgmental. The whole judgment thing is quite big. It's like a black cloud over our heads. It doesn't allow us to see what is beyond the cloud, what lies beyond the cloud. So today's message is hopefully going to motivate you to be a little bit less judgmental about yourself first, and to realize that you're probably not even conscious of just how much you judge yourself every day. And the type of judgments I'm talking about is the judgment that goes with the idea of approval or disapproval. In other words, we, and I'm saying we because I'm being shown an image of most of humanity, not all, most, vast majority, lives in non-acceptance of themselves. In other words, one might say that the world is made up of humans who are at odds with themselves. In other words, they live in separation of who they are. And that creates a certain level of emptiness. And in our society, again, for most, not for everybody, this is just the normal thing that we do every day. We judge all the time. And again, I'm not talking about discernments. I'm talking about judgments. So if someone right now says, I don't judge at all, I hate to tell you, you are probably the one that judges the most. Because if you feel the need to defend yourself, there is some judging going on right there. You are judging the situation, and perhaps you are feeling triggered that I am somehow calling you a judgmental person. And the only reason why you would have a trigger around it is because there is a judgment about that. Perhaps me saying this to you triggers some kind of judgment you have about yourself, and that's why you feel the need to defend yourself. And I believe we do this all the time without being present when we are doing it, and therefore, when it happens almost outside of our awareness. And unfortunately, judgments are what separates people. Judgments generally do not bring people together. So as a result of being a heavily judgmental race, we are continuing to create more of world of separation. Because when we judge someone, for example, and this is often unconscious, what we are really doing in essence, we are either approving or disapproving of. Now, here's the thing. Why would we even need to approve or disapprove? What's the point? What's the whole point of approval or disapproval? Well, from one perspective, when we are feeling approved of, we feel like we are loved and like we belong. On the other hand, if we feel disapproved of, it makes us believe that we are somehow not part of a team, that we are somehow different, bad. And here's the irony. Everyone is afraid of that. Everyone is afraid of being judged on some level. Because it fundamentally strikes a core around the idea of being loved. So when we are judging someone, or ourselves for that matter, what we are doing in essence, we are disapproving of whatever we believe the person represents, or we are disapproving of an aspect of ourselves. And that keeps us in this constant feeling of, I want to say the word constipation, which I don't need to go into what that is. But if you've ever been constipated, things are not moving, things are stuck. It certainly is not comfortable. Now, imagine for a moment if we chose to release our fears around being judged, and at the same time, we allow ourselves to judge less. 25% less. What difference do you feel that could potentially do? How would the world be different if we were a less judgmental race? Well, for one, we would much readily accept those who are different than we are. So what that says is that we have a tendency to disapprove of someone or something that doesn't fit our boxes. And that creates a separation. When you judge yourself harshly, You are in essence saying to yourself, I don't approve of me, thereby enhancing or creating a sense of separation within yourself. Many of people suffer because they believe that we are here all by ourselves at the end of the day. Nothing or no one is there to help us. We fear the worst. We fear not being loved. So when you disapprove of you, is this your way of loving you or withholding love away from you? Which one is it? Are you allowing more love to be within you, or are you trying to resist loving yourself fully? And that goes towards you as an individual and the person that we are judging, or the people we are judging. I believe it's important to be brave at this time. Look in the mirror and say to ourselves individually, I judge. Now, if you are the person that doesn't judge at all, consciously or otherwise, then you wouldn't be drawn to this vibration. You would be vibing on a completely different level, one that I aspire to go to. And that's because the more judgments we hold about ourselves, of ourselves and of others, it lowers our frequency. So if you are truly someone who doesn't judge, you wouldn't be here. You're on a different frequency altogether, okay? So perhaps if you say to yourself, I don't judge, but yet you're hearing this and you're in this frequency, perhaps you are not being honest with yourself, or perhaps you are not conscious, you're not aware of how you judge. Here's a litmus test. Ask yourself this question. Where do I disapprove of me? And if you have 100% complete approval of you, you are in love with yourself. Again, you would not be in this vibration. Sorry to tell you. And I'm not asking you to accept it as fact. I'm asking you to merely consider it. Why? Because considering it gives you an option to rise your vibration, consciously rise your vibration. How? By being conscious, you are automatically vibrating higher, just by being conscious. So the more conscious we are, the higher we vibrate. Limitations is what holds us back. And judging something or someone or ourselves is an act of limiting the self or the aspect that we are judging. We are disapproving of, which means we are not loving it, are we? It's much harder to love someone you disapprove of, isn't it? It's so much easier to love someone you approve of. But here's an interesting scenario. What if you allowed yourself to love someone who doesn't fit your box? Someone who is vastly different than you, someone who represents things other than what you are used to. What if you freely gave your love to that person, knowing that they're vastly different, they communicate the way you would never communicate, and in some cases they're right down assholes. Pardon me for that phrase. In other words, can you love an asshole? That's brilliant. As you can see, my team has a very interesting sense of humor, as do I. So what will it be? Will you allow yourself to be honest for a moment, to have an honest, sacred moment in your life where you looked in the mirror and you asked yourself, how do I disapprove of me? What do I see as something being wrong with me? What do I see within me that I feel is of no value or is not as valued as I would like it to be? Well, perhaps if you believe it's not as valued by others, maybe that's your projection because you are not seeing the value in what is in you. You can have the most valuable thing within you. Everyone in the world can see it. Yet you, yourself, if you do not allow yourself to see it, then it doesn't matter if the whole world sees it, does it? No. Because what matters the most is what you see in you. So if there are some inadequacies that you see within you, why don't you look at these inadequacies and ask yourself these questions? How are you serving me? What purpose do you have in my life? Because if it is a part of you, it absolutely has a purpose. It is incredibly powerful in terms of your own growth. You're just not seeing it that way. Instead, you minimize it. You keep it down. Shh, don't talk too much. So how do you judge yourself? Let's start there. And this requires one to have an honest discussion with one's self. It requires one to be very honest, to be right down transparent, where you can clearly see what's going on, rather than hiding from yourself. Now, here's a question. Why on earth would you want to hide from yourself? Yet many people hide from themselves all the time. By disapproving of one's self, you are effectively pushing it away. You're hiding from it. You want nothing to do with it. That is not called self-love. Now, wouldn't you want to be loved wholeheartedly? In fact, you are already. You just can't perceive it. You can't perceive it because you being loved wholeheartedly does not equate to you loving yourself wholeheartedly. The universe loves you with all its might. In Source's eyes, there is no separation between you and Source. You are one. You are part of the one. There are no judgments where you come from. Everyone is equal. Everyone is made up to have the same opportunities, same ambitions, maybe not same ambitions, but same opportunities and same abilities to be fully realized and fully expressed. You're that person now. Yet you insist on holding yourself back. Why? What is so awful about you that needs to be hidden from the view? What are you so afraid people will see when they see this thing coming through you? Are you perhaps afraid that you are going to make them be afraid of you if you fully show up? That may be so. But that's their fear, not yours. What you are doing, in effect, is you are highlighting the thing they're afraid of within themselves. It has nothing to do with you. You're just a trigger. And perhaps this message is a trigger for you to realize that you are immensely powerful with infinite potential. Judging yourself as less than will absolutely not help you express this potential. There is no way. Why? Because you would limit you. You will limit yourself by the way you see yourself. You will limit your expression by the harshness you hold towards yourself. Have you ever asked yourself this question? Why am I so harsh towards myself? What's up with that? You might be surprised with the answer. Perhaps your harshness about you is what keeps you small, which ultimately protects you from being seen. Because you are perhaps afraid that if people see you, they will look at you as some monster. And by the way, monsters are to be afraid of. But what if monsters were to be loved? Because they too serve a purpose. Not everyone is made the same. In fact, no one is. Everyone has their own unique, even DNA. Okay? You're all different. You're supposed to be different. That's the whole point of it. That's part of the beauty. That's part of the joy and pleasure of being alive. To experience the different. To be exposed to all the different. That's fun. It's part of fun. We instead vilify it. We judge it. We keep it down. We deem it less than. Have you ever asked yourself, why do I judge so much? Why do we as humans feel the need to judge? Again, I'm not talking about discernment. I'm talking about judgments, harsh judgments, those that separate us. Have you asked yourself, why do I judge me so harshly? Why am I my worst judge? Where does that come from? And when you are harshly judging yourself, what do you believe you are doing to yourself? Do you feel you are raising your frequency or you're keeping yourself small? It's not the first, it's the latter. Now, do you want to do that? Do you want to continue to do that? When I say small or big, what I'm referring to is the bigness of your light. Everyone is big. In other words, to fully express your individuality without limitations. When I say big, that is what I mean. When we say small, we mean the limited you, the you that you are limiting every day, just keeping it down just because you're afraid of not being loved. But what if we said that you are the love that you're looking for? In fact, that's who you are. You are love in being expressed in physical form. That's who you are. Just because you don't feel it or believe it does not make it not so. It's the universal truth. Life itself depends on frequency of love to keep it all together. It's like glue. When we don't experience love, things fall apart. They become less than, not more. Love ignites. Lack of love keeps us down. Wouldn't you rather be loved? Of course. That's why every being wants to feel and be loved, because it reminds them of who they really are. That's why. Have you ever wondered why pretty much everyone needs to be loved? And if they say they don't, they're not being honest with themselves. The more we love ourselves, which is anonymous with the more we accept ourselves wholly, the more we express that acceptance out into the world, the more of that vibration we express in the world, the more acceptance we will see in the world. That's how it goes. It doesn't just happen by itself. But in order for acceptance, full acceptance to exist, love must exist. Not hate, love. Do you love yourself enough to be honest with you? To be honest about the way you judge yourself and others? And do it with love when you ask yourself that question. Ask yourself the question, are you being judgmental, without you judging yourself for being judgmental? Can you do that? Can you just be observer of aspect of you denying another aspect of you? Can you just observe that without judging it or making it be bad? There's no good or bad where the universe is concerned. That is all down to morality, human thinking. Nothing wrong with that, but higher levels, there is no such thing as good and bad. It's all frequency. One frequency is not good, another frequency is not bad. It's just different frequency. Okay? We accept that in other dimensions, that we're just different frequencies. It's not bad or good, it's just different. In other words, we accept our difference, and it is okay. As humans, we have a really hard time with that. Why is it so? Why is it so hard for human to love ourselves? What's up with that? Why? Have you ever asked yourself the question, why don't I love myself wholeheartedly? And see what comes up? And there's always a reason. There is always a reason. Likely here's what you will hear, or this is the answer you will likely receive. You disown the parts of you that you don't love, that you don't accept. In fact, you often vilify yourself for it. In essence, you vilify yourself for being you. Now, naturally, what we humans want to do with a villain is we want to run away, or we want to get rid of it. Generally, we don't make friends with villains. but of what if we did? What if we were both capable of saying goodbye to our differences, and instead we shook our hands and said, let's all do it all together. Let's do it all together. You are here to be expressed fully. How fully you express yourself will be relevant to the level of judgment you hold about yourself. It is irrelevant of the judgment that others hold about you unless you make their judgment about you your judgment about you. That's what counts. So here's a question for you. How many times have you robbed yourself of opportunities because of other people's judgments of you that you then took on as yours? How many times have you done that? Probably plenty, without even knowing that that's what you are doing. If somebody makes a harsh statement, does it affect you? Or it's like you don't even hear it? For most people, there is a certain effect. It may be very small, maybe very tiny, but there is. For few, there is. And those are the individuals that are firm in their own stance and who they are, and they have a very firm inner foundation. So whatever somebody says, something negative, it just bounces off of them. It doesn't even affect them. And they're likely not judging the person who's judging them either, because they're higher vibrating. Okay. What I'm also hearing is that loss of identity comes often with judgment removal. So what I'm hearing is that if we decide to move on with the idea of being less judgmental, of practicing being less judgmental, that act is going to help us evolve to another level of a human being. Which means in the process, we will have to let go of our identity. We will have to let go of our old programming. We will have to release any hold we have on ourselves and anything that has been holding us back. It all has to go. And the more we reach this new higher level, the more we're going to begin to realize that this is really where we're supposed to be. It's like we're coming out of dark ages. We're coming out of dark ages. Now, here's what's interesting. Judgment comes from a thought. So if you are someone who is judgmental, you will likely find yourself living in your head, because judgments come from the mind. They do not come from the heart. Heart does not separate. It's a different frequency. It's a frequency of love, which is all-encompassing. Okay? So the next time you see somebody and you have this automatic judgment, and let's be honest, we all do it. I am aspiring to do it less, but I've come programmed with being a very judgmental, upbringing. Very, very judgmental. So it's a belief. It's a system that I've adopted that just was impressed upon me. It's naturally a part of me. I used to live there all the time. I was the fiercest self-critic there ever was. I'm sure many of you identify with that. But we're not looking at the past. We're looking at what is possible in the present moment so that we can carry forward in a different way. Do we want to, is the question. Do we want to become a society that primarily functions from the frequency of love versus frequency of fear and judgment? Where do we want to be? To me, there is no question. I want to be in a space of less judgment and more love. It feels better. It's magnificently better. It feels okay versus feeling not okay. So if you're not feeling not okay about you, what's going on? Why are you withholding love from yourself? What's the point? What do you get out of that? How does it serve you? When you find yourself automatically judging something or another, again, not discernment, judgment, when you place your own opinions on that person, ask yourself this question: how is this serving me? Because if it didn't serve you, you wouldn't do it. You wouldn't participate in that energetic exchange. You do it because you get something from it. The question is what? What do we get from judging? I do know what we get right away. We get more separation, but is that what we want? Is that what we want more of? More separation? Why? Does it feel good? Not in my book. But here's the beautiful thing. Every single one of us has this thing called free will. So what we choose to do or not to do, it all depends on us. So if you are someone who is wanting to really crank up your frequency, if you will, and you're like, no, I'm going to raise my vibration, I'm giving you a challenge. Start with raising your own awareness about the judgments you have of yourself, and start practicing less of those judgments towards yourself, and watch what happens. Your whole world might fall apart in order to a brand new world be placed in your life, magnificently bigger and better. Because the moment you shift your frequency, you don't need this anymore. What you need is this now. And the growth can occur fairly quickly. It's what I'm being asked to say. Quickly in terms of our human timeline, okay? I'm not talking 2 or 3 years. I'm talking maybe, 50, 100 years. Wouldn't that be wonderful? If we removed all the judgments from our conditioning, if we became less critical of one another and of ourselves, if we stopped measuring people based on some certain guidelines, if we can just realize that everyone is different because they're supposed to be different. That's the whole point. That's the whole point. Are you afraid of being different? It came to my awareness that apparently I am. Quite a bit, actually. And I realized just recently how much I control it for the fear of not being different. For the fear of not being thought of as different. But here's the thing. My fear doesn't come from the outside, it comes from the inside. So the fear that I have about all those people judging me for being different, it is me. I judge myself for being different. So I have become the worst judge of myself. That's because I grew up in an environment where being me was not acceptable. I couldn't be me, otherwise I wouldn't be loved, which would have been terrifying to a child. So I have learned to adapt in order to receive some sort of love. Because when a child does not feel love, the child becomes frightened. They live in fear, and that is not a comfortable place to be. So they learn to do anything possible in order not to feel that fear all the time. Otherwise, they check out. We're not designed to be in fear all the time. The body is not designed to be in fear all the time. So if you live in fear of being you, imagine what's happening on the inside of you to keep you down. The pressure you put on yourself in order not to let that you come out. All because you are afraid of not being loved. And that's because you don't yet fully love you. So it's not that you're afraid of not being loved. You're not loving yourself right now. Remember, the world is your mirror. It is what you are projecting into the world to see what comes to you as your experience. Perhaps some of you are afraid of being loved. Why on earth would you be afraid of being loved? And by the way, that exists more than I would care to admit. We are afraid of being undeserving of love, and we are equally fearful of being loved unconditionally. Why? Because we have put all these conditions on ourselves. In terms of what do we have to be, or what do we have to do in order to be loved? Because we understand love as conditional. That's not love. That's not true love. Love, true love, has no condition. It accepts everything equally and fully. It does not know separation. Love does not separate. Love unites. That is who you are within you. Is that what you are afraid of? Is that what you're afraid of? Maybe you've been so conditioned that you can't possibly be loved for all of who you are. So you've learned to hide yourself. Is that what you're afraid of? Consider this. The moment you begin to love yourself fully and completely is the moment where all those fears of you trying to escape from something of not being loved, that will all go away. Because remember, who you are inside is what reflects out of you, right back to you. So you're not going to have a fear of not being loved. You're going to know within you, 100% of you, that you are loved just as you are. Why? Because you love you. Because you love you. You're that powerful. You can choose to not love yourself, despite the fact that you are love in a physical body. That's who you are. Let this be a reminder that you didn't come here to suffer. You came here to live. and to live fully, you have to love life. If you withhold love from life, or life from love, you are withholding you from yourself, because you are all love. This is where you come from. This is who you are, the deepest sense of your being. The very essence of you is pure love. Imagine that for a moment. That you are the very thing you are afraid of the most. The love that you are fearing you. You are that powerful. You are that powerful. So what will it take? Will you choose to love you, or will you choose to keep yourself away? To keep yourself on the side, to keep an aspect of you hidden? Do you choose to continue to wear a mask for the fear of not belonging? Or do you choose to accept yourself wholly and wholeheartedly and drop the mask and show up fully? And then see what happens. You might surprise yourself. You might realize that fully loving you is the best secret and the best gift you could ever give to yourself, and to another for that matter. Because when they see you, when they see your light, when they see you powerfully being you, they're going to ask you, what do you do to be like you? And you know what you're going to say? You're going to say, I'm not doing anything. I'm just being me, just as I am. I have no conflict within me. I love myself fully. I may like to improve some things here and there, but just because I would like to improve something does not mean that I don't accept of it. That's what I'm doing. I'm just being myself. I'm choosing to be fully me, irrespective of what others think of me, because what others think of me has nothing to do with me. It has everything to do with them. It's their own judgments, their own fears staring them in the face. What will you do? So this is a very powerful message. My apologies for getting emotional. That was quite a powerful message. Took me a little bit off by surprise. Nonetheless, that's just me showing up fully, I guess. Okay, so let's go through 3 piles and let's see what messages does the universe have for you in terms of what we were talking about. Okay, pile number 1. Energy signature, past and the present. Okay. So what this is showing me, what this is telling me, it showed up in reverse. It showed up this way. Okay, so there's a resistance to it. There's a resistance to realizing that who we are in the moment is essentially an amalgamation of everything we have experienced. Okay? Which is beautiful, which is perfectly fine. However, we have an opportunity right now, by being conscious, we have an opportunity to override our past. In other words, to make our future different. And that's because if we continue to do the same thing over and over again, nothing is going to change. If you continue to say the same things to yourself that are not affirmative but are prohibitive, they're demeaning to you, they're suppressing to you. If you continue to do this, what you will get is you living your life in a limited way. Is that what you want? Here's the beautiful thing. It is okay if that's what you want. That's absolutely brilliant. More power to you. But at least be in a position to choose. Don't vilify your past either. Past made you who you are today, and you're a beautiful being, regardless of what you think. The universe sees you as this beautiful being that had the balls to show up on planet Earth and forget its own existence and struggle. That's what you are being looked at as from the universe. There are beings out there rooting for you. As they're watching you, trying to help you figure out how to escape this mental prison that you find yourself in. And they're trying to get your attention, but some of you won't hear it. Why? Because you don't believe that there is someone's out there trying to give you help. You have your own judgments about it. What if you remove those judgments? What if for a moment you said to yourself, I don't believe and I don't disbelieve. I'm just going to be neutral and see what happens. I'm just going to be neutral. Now remember, being neutral means you're holding no judgments. And remember what happens when we stop holding judgments about ourselves. We become less limited. We experience more out of life. We create more. We express more. We experience more. Look at that. Cultivation. What makes you happy? What do you like? What don't you like? And just because you don't like something doesn't mean that it's a judgment. It's just not your preference. What do you like to wear every day, but you don't allow yourself because you're afraid somebody's going to call you a weirdo? Somebody might. That's their problem. Better yet, accept your weirdo, whatever that means. You being weirdo to one person is you being the most glamorous person to another. So it's a matter of opinion. But again, it doesn't matter what someone thinks of you. What matters is what you think of you. So often our fears are tied to judgments. Are you afraid perhaps that you're going to be judged because you're going to do your thing and nobody will understand what this thing is? Why are you doing this thing? You had it so good. Oh, this thing is irrelevant. It's not, it doesn't, what's the point? Are you perhaps fearing being disapproved of? If that's the case, you have to face the fact that you likely disapprove of yourself on some level. Are you just projecting that out? You're afraid that the very thing you're doing to yourself, the world is going to do to you. Here's the deal. Stop doing it to yourself. And you're not going to fear that so much from the world. You won't care. I mean, you'll care, but you won't care. It'll just be a thing somebody says. Something that they're entitled to their opinion. That's fine, but it has nothing to do with you. You decide. Remember, it's you that matters. What you think about who you are and how you express yourself. It's you. It's always been you. You just don't remember. You know, there's a saying, you are your best friend and your worst critic. Okay? Which one are you being most of the time? Your best friend or your worst critic? Because if you are being your worst critic, then you are dealing with a lot of judgments. Don't be afraid to judge yourself less. Nothing will happen, and except something amazing might happen. Maybe you're afraid of, oh my God, who am I going to become if I don't judge myself? You shouldn't be afraid of who you're going to become when you don't judge yourself. You should look forward to it. You should be excited. You are here to be more, not less. Any judgments you hold of yourself, you are making yourself be less. What's the point of that? Why? How do you benefit? If you don't benefit, don't do it. It's simple as that. You just have to have awareness. Soul journey. This is a beautiful card. You are on a path and something is in front of you, but you can't see it yet. This is the message I'm getting. Okay? And this something is a very important revelation. This revelation is going to change your life. It's as if you're walking into a building, walking through a building, and you're walking on the other side, and on the other side is a completely different world. This building represents almost like a hall of records, information. It's like if you're moving through a tunnel right now, which is not very comfortable, okay? Tunnel representing, only one way in and one way out, okay? So you are almost like in a corridor. And it's uncomfortable. This is the image I'm getting. And you have to go through it. You have to go through it to get to the other side. There's no other way, okay? You have to go through it. And as you go through this tunnel, which is an uncomfortable period of time, you are releasing a lot of guilt. You are also releasing a lot of possessions, low frequency identities and ideologies you hold about yourself. You are literally releasing your identity. You are shedding skin. And this shedding of the skin, like snakes do, is going to make you become anew. But it's not that you are becoming this a new person. You are that person already. It's just that you've been shielded by all the layers of stuff, beliefs, judgments. And as you release those from yourself, you become lighter. You become a highly vibrating being. You also release yourself from the past in terms of what from your past no longer serves you. And this is where you are right now. You're in this corridor, okay? Look at yourself in the mirror and ask yourself this question: what would I like to release about myself in terms of my own judgments? And how can I release these judgments about myself? Who do you have to become in order to release judgments you have about yourself? Who do you have to be? Does that mean you would have to be a more loving person? Then become a more loving person. The world needs more people who are loving, who are vibrating on a higher frequency of love. We do not need more separation. Okay? Unite with yourself today. That's what I have for you, pile number 2, or pile number 1. All right, pile number 2, let's see what messages we have for you. We have Ascended Masters. We have Courage in reverse. And we have Abundance. I'm going to just tune into each one. Look at yourself today and imagine a presence. And this presence is all-knowing and all-encompassing. In other words, look at yourself today and see God or Source in your reflection. Can you do that? Can you become one with yourself for a moment and look at you and see the way Source sees you? Can you do that? And if the answer is I can't, then a question following would be, why? Why can't you? Why can't you see yourself the way Source, God, Universe sees you? What is wrong with you? Why is it hard for you to believe that you are essentially the expression of Source? Why is it so hard? Is it your beliefs? Okay, if that's the case, let's look at your beliefs. What beliefs do you hold about yourself that tell you that you are not an expression of love, of God or Source? What beliefs tell you that? And as a result of those beliefs, how do you express yourself? How does it affect you? How does it help you or hinder you to express yourself fully? Does it help you become more of who you are, or does it keep you less? The universe does not see you as less. The universe sees you as an equal. You're an equal opportunity. The universe sees you as an equal. Do you see yourself as an equal to the universe, Source / God? Now that's a very hard concept to wrap around for many people's heads. Why? Because we weren't trained to be that there is this superior that judges us. Now, how crazy is that? Why would the universe judge you for something it has created? That's like disapproving of one's own creation. If you've created it, then it's a part of you. Why would you disassociate yourself from it? Makes no sense. You are who you are because you're supposed to be that way. You're not supposed to be anything or anybody else right now. Excuse me. You are supposed to be, quotation mark, who you are, but more fully. Okay? What does that mean to you? What does it mean to you when the universe says to you and Source says to you, you're supposed to be you, but more? Not because you need to somehow get more or work for more or somehow apply for more. No. You're supposed to allow yourself to express more of who you already are, but you are not expressing it. Okay? That more. Okay? Excuse me. You are not supposed to hold yourself back anymore. You've done that many times, many lifetimes. Many institutions have held you back because of your powers. Okay? So you made your powers insignificant in this lifetime. But what of those powers within you are the most significant things about you? What is that? What if that's the best you've got? Are you going to hold the best of you from the world? Why? Maybe because you are not proud of that best. Maybe you're not proud of that aspect of you. Maybe you deem it as a villain, something you're not supposed to have, or something bad versus something good. The universe does not see us in terms of bad or good. That belongs to world of separation, which is where we live in. We live in separation of ourselves. And when we live in separation of ourselves, we live in separation of the God self from ourselves. Okay? By not accepting ourselves fully, we are not accepting ourselves for who we truly are. So how do you hold back? How do you hold back your expression of you? Okay. We have the message of abundance. Okay. I'm just tuning into the message here. Here's what I want to say to you. Abundance is yours when you face your light. Abundance is yours when you face your light. That's a very interesting message. And that's because when you face your light, you're no longer going to see things as black and white, good or different, bad or good. You're going to see everything in terms of opportunities. Opportunities for growth. Opportunities for expansion. Which means you will not be looking at yourself and your life in limited ways. Your own opinion of you is going to change. Heck, you will disqualify the whole idea of opinion altogether. It doesn't mean that you cannot have preferences. That's not what it is. Okay? But in order for you to see your own light, you first have to face your fears. And what do these fears tell you about who you are being, who you are expressing, who you are, or what you are experiencing? What are your own limitations that you hold about yourself? And are those really truly limitations, or are those limitations you put on yourself? So they're not really limitations, you just put limitation on yourself. Because you are an unlimited being. Yes, you are wearing a bodysuit. There are some limitations with that, but even within the human experience, your potential is so much more unlimited. You have no idea. That's the difference, because it's not coming from your head. The unlimitedness does not come from your head. It comes from beyond the intellect. You are more than what you think. And you are more than what you think about. Do you see yourself as an equal? Or do you see yourself as smaller than, less than? Be honest. Be honest. Don't judge yourself for it, but be honest. Because it's only with honesty and transparency of you towards you that you can make some big shifts, big headways. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to. It just, because it's going to be like you're blinded. You're not going to be able to see. You're not going to be able to see beyond what you currently see. You're going to be limited. Okay? Abundance is yours in every way, including love. You just have to allow yourself to see it. When you look for the beauty in the world, what you will look for and what you will look at will be beauty. Does that mean that other things don't exist? No, it's just you will be looking for beauty. If you are looking for love, you will be looking at everything as expression of love. If you are looking for abundance, you will be looking at life as abundant, not as lack of abundance. Your entire existence about you is going to change. And that is how you change your world. That is how you change your world. The entire world may exist exactly the same, but your world is going to be different. Imagine that. It takes courage to be in charge of your life. Why? Because in order to take charge of life, you have to know what you want. You have to allow yourself to receive as well as be willing to give. You become less opinionated and more determined. You don't classify experiences as good or bad. You instead look at them as opportunities to learn. You see everything as potential, not lack. And that takes courage. And that's because to look at things differently requires you to remove your own filters, the ones through which you have been looking. The filters of separation, the filters of inadequacy, not enough. And the moment you change your filters, you see differently, and that may require some adjustment. It is, after all, like a different world that you are living in. It's not a small thing. And that's precisely it. It's not a small thing. To change how you see the world requires courage, and it is not a small thing. Do you have courage to change the way you see yourself, the way you see the world? Do you have the courage to look at yourself and look at your filters and ask yourself this question: which filters limit my expression? Which filters limit me? Which filters also limit me what I see about other people, or what I perceive, or how I experience other people? Okay? Because your own limitations not only will limit you, it will limit the experience you could potentially have with others. Because you're going to hold yourself back. Is that what you want? Because if you would like to hold yourself back just for the experience of, I wonder what it's like to hold myself back, more power to you. more power to you. But I bet you anything, if you are holding yourself back, most of it is you not doing it consciously. You're not being conscious about it. That's okay. That's what we're here to do. We're here to raise human consciousness. How? By becoming more conscious, by being more aware. That's what shifting consciousness is. It's a shift of perspective. It's a change of how we view the world, how we view ourselves, how we see ourselves, how we experience and express life based on what we see and how we see in ourselves and in others. That takes courage. Because it means that you have to walk away from the traditional norm. You have to, quote unquote, stop being a certain somebody and start practicing being a certain new somebody. It's called change of your identity. It is not a small thing. But you are here because you've signed up for this roller coaster ride. You did not come here believing it was going to be a picnic. In fact, you chose this particular time frame, timeline on planet Earth so that you could have your experience, so that you could grow very fast if you chose to. You don't have to. It's up to you. There's no judge. Here's the biggest thing. Whether you choose to grow fast or slow or a little bit or a lot, there's no judgment. Nobody's going to judge you for it. What's the point? The point is to experience and to expand your consciousness. That's what the point is. It's to expand. Staying in the same place for a long period of time is kind of boring. We're not here to be still. Creation is constant movement. Okay? Even when we believe we're going backwards, we're still moving forward. It's just, it temporarily looks that way. So what's happening in the world right now, we're not moving backwards, we're moving forward with some considerable discomfort in the process. The discomfort is the change in the making. The discomfort is part of the process of change. If you are at discomfort with yourself right now, so there's either an opportunity for you to change or you are amidst change. Okay? So this is what I have for you, pile number 2. Hello, pile number 3. Let's see what messages we have for you. We have Between Worlds, we have Nurture, both in reverse, and we have Tree of Life. Okay, beautiful, beautiful cards, depictions. So Between Two Worlds essentially symbolizes a space between two places, the old and the new. Okay. If you are drawn to pile number 3, you are in resistance to the new, or you are not in acceptance of the new. You're trying to keep on to the old. Here's the deal. The old isn't working anymore. Not only is it not working anymore, it limits you severely in terms of what you can do and what you can create. It limits you. Okay? But it's hard to let go of the old ways, isn't it? We have gotten so used to doing things a certain way, they just became part of our identity. And for the most part, we don't even have awareness of the things that we are doing, that we are used to doing. This is primarily going to be with regards to how we see ourselves. So how, pile 2, you see yourself. And you are resistant to changing how you see yourself. Now I'm looking at this resistance and I'm going, what are you so resistant to? Why? It's like you're clinging on to your identity and, oh, okay. So for some of you, you're actually afraid of becoming more than what you thought you could be. You are, oh, okay. You are literally afraid of seeing yourself succeed or seeing yourself big. Big meaning in your fullness. Pile number 3, many of you are clinging to your own identity, your old identity, because you're afraid of becoming this, I want to say, magnificent person. Now, how does that make sense? It makes sense if you believe that if you were to become this powerful person, something bad would happen. It's not a conscious thing. It's very unconscious for the most part. And what I'm getting here is a lot of this message will be heard by healers. Okay? So you're holding on to this identity for dear life, your current structure, but all I'm getting is like, it's like you're trying to climb a wall and you're not a Spider-Man, so you keep sliding down. So it's a lot of effort, but you just keep sliding down. You're afraid. Why on earth are you so afraid? I just heard people are going to judge me. Okay, so where do we begin this little session, I feel? What do you believe is going to happen if people judge you? What do you fear is going to happen that if people judge you? Well, you're afraid they're not going to accept you. Okay? And so you're afraid of not being accepted. You're afraid they're not going to accept you. Okay, so let's say they don't accept you. So what? Okay, let's say many people don't accept you. You seem to be okay with that. You're just not paying attention to it. You're not making it your business. But somehow, with this thing in you, it's somehow different. You fear you're going to be harshly judged for what you say and what you do. And what I feel is happening is that you're the more critical person out of everybody that will ever judge you. You're the one that is the worst critic and judge of you. Don't be afraid of them judging you. You should be more afraid of you judging you. Do you know why? Because the way you judge you is what matters the most. Pile number 3, there is a massive conflict going on. You have 2 opposing aspects of you. One aspect that wants to come out and another aspect that says, no, you're not coming out. No. I'm afraid of you. What is that for you? Okay. And this limits how you see yourself. It limits how other people see you. It limits how much people can enjoy you. I just heard I'm not here to be enjoyed. No, I wouldn't be so quick about that. I wouldn't be so sure about that. People enjoy being around you. Is that what you're afraid of? Are you afraid of being enjoyed? Now that's almost funny, isn't it? Maybe, just maybe, you are afraid of being center of attention. Why? Well, perhaps being center of attention means that you are exposed. And when you are exposed, you feel very vulnerable. Are you afraid of that? Are you afraid of showing your own vulnerability? What happens if you show your own vulnerability? What are you afraid of? That people are going to judge you? Darling, everyone is vulnerable. Everyone is vulnerable. Those people you're afraid they're going to judge you, they're just as vulnerable and afraid of being vulnerable as you. You're in the same boat. We're all the same at the end of the day. We're all fearful of being judged and not being loved. And that's because we are judging and not loving ourselves first and foremost. That's why. Maybe one of the first things you might want to do is reintroduce yourself to yourself, your true self, your bigger self, the masterful self, your higher self. Maybe it's time to make a new acquaintance. You with yourself. Maybe it's time to take yourself on a date once in a while to enjoy each other's company, rather than shoving an aspect of yourself somewhere in a closet and hide. Now, why would you want to hide an aspect of you? Afraid to be seen. Are you afraid of being seen, pile number 3? Are you afraid of being seen? Because if that's the case, then you are going to project that out into the world. And ironically, you will feel like you're not being seen. Are you one of those individuals who feels that you are not being seen, that people don't see you? If that's the case, look inside, because chances are there's a part of you that is afraid of being seen. So you energetically make yourself be almost invisible. It's amazing how it works. All for one reason and one reason only: to protect you from, generally goes down to one thing: fear of not being loved. If you don't love yourself and somehow you hope that someone is going to love you and that's going to somehow magically make you love you automatically, you couldn't be more wrong. In fact, if you don't love you and you experience being loved, you will often find a way to reject that love because it's not in accordance with how you love you. You're going to self-sabotage. Are you that person? Which is interesting with this card, nurture, in reverse. We're all here to be in some way taken care of. We all experience that in our lives at certain points. At the end of the day, we all take care of each other. The message with this card is simply this: how are you not taking care of you? If you would imagine an aspect of you as a child who is crying and feeling alone, maybe even desperate to be seen, to not be so afraid. If such a child was in front of you, would you turn your back to this child and walk away? Is that what you would do? I would find it extremely difficult for most people to walk away from a little child who is terrified, afraid, desperate for being loved, that you would walk away in the other direction. It would naturally pull on your heartstrings. You'd want to embrace this child and say, I'm here, please don't be afraid, I've got you. Well, you know what? There's a part of you like that, just like that, inside of you right now. And you are not giving it any attention. You are turning your back on it. Now, hear this. When you turn your back on this little child, what do you believe it tells that child about itself? Does this child believe, oh, I'm lovable? Or does this child believe that they're not lovable, they're not accepted? There's a part of you that believes that it is not lovable. And it doesn't care who loves it. What it cares is that you love it. You. You are its gift. But again, you're not seeing yourself as gift, or do you? Do you believe that you are a gift to the world? Do you believe that the world benefits from you being its present? Do you believe in that? And if not, why not? Why could you not be a gift to the world? Why not? Do you think you're just some human form that plopped into a body and you are kind of here for no real reason? You know that's not the case. You wouldn't be watching this if you thought that was the case. You exist for a reason. You exist to create, to expand, to grow, to learn, to manifest in however way you see fit. But if you are not nurturing yourself, it's like a child that's always hungry. What does it do? It cries. Your inner child is crying out to you right now. It is desperately wanting your attention, and you are turning its back on it. Why? What is so terrible about giving your love to this desperate aspect of you that wants nothing more and nothing less other than just your attention? And what if you did just that? What if you gave it your attention? What if you said, I'm here for you, you're not alone, let's do this together? Imagine what would happen. You would be achieving remarkable feats because you would not be standing in your own way. And right now, you're standing in your own way. Tree of Life. Here's a window of opportunity to express your own unique knowledge in your own unique way. Okay? You are here on this planet in order to help equalize energies. And this process takes time. You have chosen to come into this physical body in order to express your own unique frequency in order so that planet Earth can shift to higher frequencies. You are here for that. Okay? Globally speaking, you make a difference. Individually speaking, you make a difference. You make a difference night and day. You are here because you have a reason to be here, and that reason is important. So if you dismiss yourself as something that's unimportant or as someone that's unimportant, you are living a lie. You're lying to yourself. I just heard, what embraces you loves you back. I'm not quite sure what that means. What embraces you loves you back. I'm just going to leave that one for you guys to tune into. If you were to be embraced by Source, or I'll throw the word God in there. Okay? I still have a bit of a conflict with that word. But if you were embraced by Source, what do you think it would feel like? What do you feel the presence of Source would feel like? It's kind of hard to comprehend, isn't it? Because it's so big. In order to imagine it, we almost have to put a limit to it. It's impossible to explain the love universe has for you. It's because it's not an earthly thing. It cannot be expressed with human words. There's no expression to express that. It's infinity. Okay? But imagine for a moment that you were hugged or embraced by this infinity with nothing more, nothing less than unconditional love. What would that feel like? Yet you are here to experience that in this lifetime. You are here to experience that. Therefore, if you are here to experience that, then that means that you have to allow it. You don't have to do anything, but in order to experience this embrace, to feel this embrace of universe embracing you, you have to allow it. You have to allow it. In order to fully embody that feeling, you have to allow it. Which means you have to let go of the limitations you have about yourself. And instead look at your limitations as opportunities. Look at other people's limitations as their opportunities, because that's what they are. You don't have limitations, you have opportunities. That's different. Opportunity means there is something more. There is always something more. There's always something more to you than what you currently perceive about yourself. That goes without saying. The question is, will you allow that more to be embodied by you? How? Simple. Start with being less critical and judgmental of yourself and others. Start with that and see what happens. So similar message to the other piles. Okay? That's what I have for you, pile number 3. I hope this was helpful. If you would like the 2023 predictions for zodiac signs, there's a link down below. I would love to see your comments. Let me know how these messages felt for you in your body. And I look forward to seeing you again. Thank you so much and see you soon. Bye-bye.